Well, in less than 4 months, voters will head to the polls to select our next president. A new Fox News poll shows President Trump lagging behind Democratic candidate Joe Biden by at least 8 points. Here to talk about this is Ed Espinoza from Progress, Texas. Thank you for being here tonight.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Ed, what do you think is behind Biden's jump in poll numbers?
Well, look, obviously the pandemic, coronavirus, is having a big effect on the nation. You've seen the economy really struggle because of it. A lot of people struggle. And then you've seen the president's lack of leadership through all this be an issue as well. Those are contributing to these poll numbers. But also, let's not forget that in addition to what's happening right now, people have seen 4 years of an administration that has no direction and is just really operates on emotion and things that haven't helped people in any real way, and you're seeing that reflected in these poll numbers now.
What is the likelihood that the president's sagging poll numbers will hurt Republicans down ballot in Texas?
Yeah, well, look, when you have somebody at the top of the ticket that's struggling, that tends to have an effect down ballot. And, you know, all the great candidates in the world at the bottom of the ticket aren't always going to help the person at the top. And in this case here in Texas, you know, I was looking at my notes just before we jumped on here. There have been 13 polls since the end of April. And in that time, Biden has led in 5 of them. Trump has been within a point or two, has led about a point or two in 6 more. And then 2 of them were even. 13 polls shows a trend line that is absolutely in favor of this being a battleground state. And if Biden can bring the Democrats across the finish line in Texas, that will absolutely have a down ballot effect. You'll see that affect the U.S. Senate race. You'll also see it in the Railroad Commission race, where we've got Democrat Krista Castaneda running against somebody who upset the incumbent Republican, and not many people know who that person is. So it's really going to be interesting in Texas. It'll be a lot more competitive here than we've seen it possibly in a generation.
Do you see Texas really as becoming a swing state? I mean, what's the likelihood that it could really go blue in November?
Look, I know it's hard for a lot of people to believe. Texas has this reputation as being a red state, very deeply Republican, and because we haven't won statewide for so long, it seems like it's so heavily red. But the truth is, Republicans haven't really won any districted elections here since 2014. Let me repeat that. Republicans haven't really won any districted elections in Texas since 2014. They've lost 19 seats in the House and in the Senate here in the state side, and they've lost 2 seats in Congress. This is a changing electorate that has just been swelling for a long time. And what's happening is you're seeing a lot of the people, a lot of the young Latinos in South Texas, young people coming of age around the state, registering and voting. But you're also seeing people from other states who have moved to Texas, and they don't like what they see, and they've started voting. And that trend line has favored Democrats over Republicans by a ratio of 5 to 1. And that, I think, has really changed the shape of the electorate. I wouldn't say the electorate that we had was changing. I'd say the electorate itself looks a lot different than it used to.
Let's talk about where President Trump has an edge, and what are some of the challenges that Biden would have to overcome in Texas?
Here in Texas, I think that, yeah, well, look, Trump is going to have an edge in some rural counties, and he's going to have an edge with hardcore conservatives who just want to vote the party line. And that's to be expected. It still makes for a competitive race. It's by no means a gimme for anybody on either side. But I think where Biden can really present himself as an alternative successfully is not only with the growing electorate that we're seeing in the blue counties, the urban counties like Travis County here, and then the suburban counties like Hayes and Williamson surrounding us, but also voters who are new and maybe independent voters who wouldn't necessarily vote Democratic. I think it made a decision in 2018 to vote Democratic, and I think many of them are going to continue to do that again in 2020. I don't think that there's a whole lot of persuasion for those voters to come back to the Republican side. I think it's a matter of whether or not they'll actually show up. And I think if they show up, they're voting for Biden.